I want to share with you right now some things that I'm dealing with. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to speak in the Homestead How 10-hour event, and I kind of glossed over and minimalized some things. And I don't want to sound as if I'm begging for attention or I need a poor me or poor you, Scotty. I don't, I'm not. But I don't want to minimize or diminish it either. So here is a litany of things that have been going on that I have to contend with in this journey. And again, the reason I go down this list, and it's pretty comprehensive, but it is not exhaustive. But the reason I do this is there may be someone that you know, or maybe one of you watching this video will say, hey, that's me. Maybe be able to relate. Maybe, maybe I can give you some assistance. Maybe not. It could be that you've gotten through that and you can reach out to me and I can learn from you that I can lean into what you have already accomplished and use that for motivation for myself. So it's a two-way, street. So here's a list of things that I've already made a small video, and I'm going to cut it out of one that was too long. And here you go. Here's me and my issues, so to speak. And boom, I'm there, and the lights are on, and I'm not in my cocoon, you know. And I think in my rush to let other people get in, and in my stage fright, if you want to call it that, I think what happened is I ended up minimizing and or trivializing, tough word, some of the challenges that I faced. And I don't want to be that person who does a poor me, poor me. I'm not comfortable with it. But I have to stop. You could pardon me, but I have to stop manning up. A problem is a problem. A challenge is a challenge. And as a victory is a victory, and a success is success. But addressing it, I wanted to share with you. First, I am abundantly blessed. I have almost every piece of my body I came into the world with. Missing part of a thumb. You got looked at that. I'm missing a part of a thumb. Obviously, I got missing a few connections up here, and I had to have some surgery on my neck. So you can see here, right there, you can see I'm missing some muscles here. Makes me look like I'm really ripped, but I'm not. I'm just missing body parts there, and so I want to take a minute to just run down this list, and I'm not looking for pity. I'm not looking for anything more than maybe someone will hear this and say, "Hey, there's a guy out there. He's 60 plus years old. He's just started this, and he has some of the things that you're running into. Go talk to him. Maybe he can shed light on it." So I'll preface the rest of this by saying I was in the Air Force for 20 years, and along the way, I did the things you do in the military. And I went to places and did things, and nothing super well. I did things, but nothing really. I wasn't in combat. That's what I'll say first. I was not in combat, but I did things. So without going through, well, we'll start at the top. So probably one of the biggest challenges I have is I had to have thoracic outlet surgery because I have thoracic outlet syndrome, TOS. And this is something that happened, and what happened is I ended up somehow crushing the stuff in here, and I lost the ability for my blood to flow into my arm properly. So, like if I had my arm lifted, or I was laying down, or I had no pulse, and very very weak, and very little blood flow. My arm would get ice cold hands, ice cold arm. It'd go numb. It would hurt. It was a problem. So I had to have surgery, and involved cutting me from here to here, opening me up, and pulling my jugular over or whatever, and pulling things out and apart. And they went in and they cut off my anterior and medial scaling. There's a scalenectomy, and so they had to cut off the muscles from my spine and my cervical spine, and then they had to cut them off from my rib cage, I want to say, and yeah, rib cage. And so they cut them out, pulled them out, filleted me, and stitched me back up. And then they did what they call a brachial or brachial plexus neurolysis. So they deadened the nerve to here. So I have some sensory nerve degradation because they did it on purpose. I have the muscles gone here and makes it for a challenge. I don't have the coordination. I'm never a coordinated guy, but I have even less coordination now on my dominant side. That's a challenge. Um, I have asthma. I didn't have asthma. I was in the military. I ran, and then to the end, and then some deployments. I end up with asthma. Pretty moderate case of asthma. Sometimes it's worse, and all those who suffer from asthma, you understand that there are days you go to the doctors to get breathing treatment, take daily medications. I have sleep apnea. And I got the bonus round. I don't just have obstructive sleep apnea because I'm heavy and have a big neck, but I also have central apnea. So that means my brain forgets to breathe. So I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing if my central type asthma gets better by being on a carnivore diet. Along with these things, the next thing probably would be I have a significant amount of things going on in my cervical spine, my lumbar spine, a degenerative disc disease. I have narrowing of the central canal. I have osteophytes. Those are little pieces that grow in jaggedy that are in the foraminal opening where the nerve roots come out. So I have that from C1 up to the atlas. I'm okay. From C2 down, not okay. No bueno, but go figure. Then we go down to the thoracic. Well, gosh, my thoracic spine seems to be pretty good. Okay, got a little bit of a hemangioma on there, but that's not a big deal, I don't think. We get down into the lumbar, and all bets are off. You're going to go L1, seems pretty good, but from L2 to L3 on down to my sacroiliac joint, we have problems. We have problems. Yes, we do. Losing some weight would be really helpful, right? After that, I had a couple umbilical hernias. I remember exactly when it happened. They call it a congenital defect, but I was doing sit-ups, did too many, and my belly button said, "Nah, we're done." I was showing off to my boys, and yeah, well, there you go. So, and I had that repaired, and I have the mesh. I've got acid reflux and GERD, and with that came esophageal strictures. And with the esophageal strictures, the way they fix that is they take basically a graduated broomstick, comes out a little narrower at this end, and they put you down. Thankfully, mostly out, I guess. Out, I don't remember. They have you turn down, and they put this down your throat, and they just tear it open. That's a tearing motion. They tell you there's some risks. I've had that done 3 times. So my esophageal stricture, because of the acid reflux, and that those strictures happen. When I would eat tuna or meat or sometimes bread, and I'd get so choked, and until that passed, my esophagus would fill with saliva. And I'd want to regurgitate, and I couldn't regurgitate. I couldn't move, and it just took time, and it hurt, and it's that you're worried you're choking type of hurt. So you give a hurt like that to an asthmatic, yeah, that's and a sleep apnea person. Yeah, right. So then we'll go down a little further. Hey, other than my left knee, a little bunged up, my left knee's pretty good. My hips were good, but then I tore off, got a partial tear, or more than a partial tear, rupture of a medial um, glutamus. Yeah, one of my glutes got a little torn off. Did too much heavy lifting one day, and I'm not prepared for it, and so that's a challenge. Plantar fasciitis on both my feet. Ankles, well, or cankles, not so great. My left one, I broke it in 6 places one time. So that gives me fits at times, but otherwise I'm okay with that. Turns out that I'm deaf in the upper registers. We found that out going for a job at a hospital, and they had to give me a test. And the lady asked me after the test. She said, "Does your wife throw things at you?" I go, "Oh, no." Does she give you a hard time about what having to repeat? I go, "Yeah," and she says, "Well, that's because you cannot hear her. I literally cannot hear at the upper frequency, say 38 at about 3,800 hertz on up, and at 4,000 I am profoundly deaf, so I have to wear my hearing aids." And yesterday I had to, do a mea culpa because I had the headphones on because I cannot have the headphones on over the hearing aids because it just doesn't work. So let's have deafness at the high end. Then I find out I've got well, back to the esophageal problems and the acid reflux. I have a hiatal hernia too. So I mean, it just keeps going. It's a beautiful thing, right? But what really kind of bugs me, I think the thing I deal with the most today, and I have high blood pressure, of course, high blood pressure, is that I have NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm not an alcoholic, but I do know in my youth I abused alcohol fiercely. Stupid consequences, and here I am. So we're going to call it NAFLD because whether it's by alcohol or not, it's an end state that's the same. It's the pathway and perhaps some other damages that happen along the way. But um, I've had multiple years of tests for it's an ultrasound test, and it just hasn't gotten better. And even one time when I did carnivore for like just about 2.5 months, there was no change. I think I'm going to have to do it for like a year plus to get the change I need for me because I'm special. I also have an enlarged portal vein, so there's serious concern about portal vein hypertension. It turns out that the venal system that supports the liver, where the portal vein is, that that system works on low pressure, not the high pressure. And if it gets too big, it's very soft, it's very gummy, it's very, if you've ever eaten liver without the veins taken out, anyway, so the low pressure, and if anything bad happens, or if I have a aneurysm there, then well, I'm done. So that's problematic. And then finally, it would be anxiety, depression, and um, uh, the thing is you do things for 20 years in a highly engaging environment, and you'll see things, you'll be part of things, and things won't be great for you. And one of those things was I was involved in a when we were out on a deployment, and the tent we were sleeping in, there was a great big fire. And when I became aware of this great big fire, can you imagine being inside of a the mantle in a lantern? If you've ever gone camping and you have the mantle, that's what it kind of looks like. But anyway, you're in this great big fire, and I um I left my I left my cot, and I grabbed my gas mask because there was smoke and whatever, and I grabbed it, put it on, all that training, put it on, cleared it. I was rolling on the ground out underneath the tent. I'm sorry. There's a big fire. I want to get out first. So I got out, and then you could see what had happened is our stove had been turned up too high for too long. The Army folks we deployed with were notorious in the cold weather for turning that thing up as high as they could, and use diesel fuel. And anyway, there was a fuel spill in the containing uh, can for that purpose. And what was happening was that fuel caught up and it flashed, and the whole tent lit up and big heat wave. And all I see is out of the corner of my eyes sheets of fire, and I'm out. I go back in, we take care of it. So they go, so that happens, okay? That's a little bit singed and a lot scared. And later on in that same deployment, it was really cold. Another tent did the same thing, only this time, as I looked on and saw there, you could see the people running around inside, and they were on fire. No bueno. So, um, so with the sleep apnea, the mask that worked for me is the one that goes right over the nose and the mouth. And so I wake up in the middle of the night and having nightmares and ripping it off. So I have sleep apnea. I have a BiPAP because I need it to breathe in and breathe out, and or to not be blowing against me when I'm exhaling. And it's just real hard to wear it. It's just so hard. So with that, and the fact that when I was in service, I was a super active person, and I was a PT guy, and I loved it. I was a big guy, and I played full court basketball with the young pups up to year mark 18. Up to year mark 18, I'd play full court basketball and go lift weights, and I have some PRs that are pretty good. Not nothing that anybody who's an avid weightlifter probably would say, but I did get a 400-pound squat. I did just taste 305-pound bench press, and that's all I can do. And turns out with this neck problem, that probably led to some of that. But my legs were super strong, and I did some pretty significant type of leg press type things, and I really liked that. And I liked, like I said, full court basketball and racquetball and running and doing PT, and we did all that. Year mark 18, it all came to a screeching halt. I fell down some stairs and busted my tailbone and ended up in a pretty tender situation. And then because I stopped exercising, the asthma or the chronic rhinitis and sinusitis I had, because when I was stationed overseas, it turns out that overseas did not like me, and I had chronic rhinitis and sinusitis. And anyway, somehow or another, I ended up with full blown asthma, adult onset of asthma. And so they tested me, they said I have it, and then they medically boarded me. Fortunately, enough people believed in me, and those people were happy with my career choices at the latter stage that they decided to let me stay in. And of course, we are just now beginning to get into Desert Storm 2, as I call it, but the conflicts in Afghanistan and in Iraq. So I got to stay in till my 20 years were done, and I was allowed to retire. So they didn't want to take all this time yesterday because there's a lot of people that had a lot to say yesterday. But I didn't want to make it sound like, hey, I'm not battling anything. There's nothing causing, or there's no reason for me other than I'm lazy. I'm not a lazy person, but when you get caught in your depression, when you have anxiety, it becomes more of a challenge. And people oftentimes who have no depression and who don't have that kind of anxiety, they often don't understand, and I don't fault them. I understand that, but when you're the person in it, it's hard, it's difficult, and platitudes don't always work. A hug doesn't always work. But this is what I have learned. For me, getting up and doing something works. So that's what I have to do. I have to get up and do something, and I have to be structured. I don't have a lot of internal discipline that I've developed. I heard yesterday, and I wish I remembered one lady's name, but she was instrumental in yesterday's early on uh, discussions, and she talked about a book called Atomic Habits. And in that book, they talk about don't put yourself in a situation where you're surrounded by things you're weak to or acceptable to. Don't put yourself in a room full of kryptonite, Superman, Superwoman. It's just it doesn't serve you. So uh, do what you can to mitigate the exposures to your kryptonite. I'll give you an example though. This morning, I like to do a lot of stuff with my church. I try to do a lot of things there, and one of the things that we do and I'm instrumental in is a men's fellowship breakfast. Simple thing. Come in, sit down, say hi to a bunch of guys. But we put it on, and in that breakfast, we provide some biscuits from the local biscuit factory. Sausage, egg, cheese, bacon, egg, and cheese, steak, um, biscuits, and then we get some donuts, and we have coffee, and there's some juice. So I'm going in this morning. I'm full carnivore. Go to the donut place. I go to the biscuit place. I pick up the biscuits, and then I go to the donuts, and 3 dozen donuts and a whole bunch. They give you the holes as a bonus, right? And we picked up a bunch of donuts. Okay. You can smell them donuts. You know what? I wasn't tempted. In the past, I'd have eaten a bunch. I'd have shoved 2 or 3 in my mouth a month ago. 2 months ago, I did. Today, I didn't have any. I didn't even have the biscuits. Last month I pulled the biscuits apart and just ate the meat. This month I said, why are you doing this, Scotty? This is not what you want to do. And at least a little more for some other guys, right? So we put on the breakfast and we had it, and it wasn't my kryptonite. And I think that's a benefit from this way of life, but it wasn't my kryptonite. So we got that yesterday, and I thought, well, that made good sense. I've always said if you're an alcoholic, you may not want to conduct your meetings in a bar if you're trying to escape from that lifestyle. So anyhow, I just thought I'd share that with you and share these things with you. And, I gotta be honest, it'll be okay. I'm gonna lose this weight. I'm gonna get healthier. I'm really looking forward for the anxiety, depression things to be laid to rest. I'll be excited for the liver I guess the liver to be made better. I'll be excited to not have near constant pain from the various injuries and things going on. I'll be really happy to not have my my belly hurting because it's rubbing my belt buckle over the top, that mushrooming thing, whatever. I mean, you can lose a lot of weight, but you still got to cinch it down. So anyhow, those are things I'm looking forward to. Looking forward to be able to move more and run more and be able to do the things I used to be able to do all those years ago. That's part of my depression thing is I used to be able to do things that I'm not doing now. But we're gonna get back to it. So I thank you all for your time, your interest, and your support. Y'all take care, and hope you have a fantastic day and that you get to be the best you that you can be today. Take care now. God bless. Bye-bye.